this is actually really exciting for us to showcase this new tool that we built just recently, and sort of finalized with the help of our Broadcom representatives and such. We had validated a lot of the tool inside the Broadcom Layer 7 API management team, and we got a lot of direction built from them. So what I wanted to do is do a first introduction, sort of set the agenda for this call. Introduction to the team. We have three, or two individuals that did the primary, all of the technical background and technical work needed for this specific tool. And then sort of go through what the actual tool and the deployments look like. And then some of the migration tool outlines and sort of the demo. So when we demo, we're going to do two different demos, and I'll get into those details later in the call. But essentially, the tool helps in many different ways, and in such the two sort of the first approach is a less cloud native, for more of a sort of a new into a new environment for guests, customers inside the Kubernetes world, new to that world. And then the second option is, we'll start to play around with the operator and sort of build out the necessary steps that would be sort of what we would, expect to see in the future when it comes to cloud native. And then the last bit would be sort of questions and answers, or question period, sort of driving the conversation from the discussions. So Sanjay will be running the demos, and Muthu and myself will do the narration. So I just wanted to introduce the team of Layer 7 experts and sort of the DevSecOps team that we have in-house in the ANI solutions. Myself is Derek Orr. I've been around the market for within the Layer 7 space for close to 12 years, or 12 to 13 years actually. And I started out with Layer 7 back in Vancouver, sort of moved into the CA and Broadcom acquisitions, and then I found a space here in ANI Solutions a few years back. I've been working with them directly as the lead API architect for them. Also on the call, Sanjay Shah, is a senior architect in the cloud native deployments and sort of former Layer 7 CA services team member. He's very much focused in on API management and how security solutions help with those specific deployments. And then as well as Muthu Rathnamswamy, apologize, Muthu. It's a senior architect, Layer 7 API management. He's a cloud native specialist as well. And then we also have, he's been around the marketplace within the Layer 7 space for many years. He's kind of worn many hats during that time. And then also Natalie Nicoletti, who's the Senior Services Account Director from a global standpoint here at ANI Solutions. So this is the team that sort of built the solution and put together all the necessary demos, sort of the demonstration today. We have a vast amount of knowledge in this space from all sorts of different avenues. And so any question during this time we'll answer as quickly as we can. So what we're going to do is just sort of walk through sort of the deployments at the sort of the intro. So Layer 7 is obviously built into our fabric at ANI Solutions. We are very much focused on the Layer 7 API Gateway and portal and sort of the OTK. As within the gateway itself, there's many different facets that we'll get into deploying and sort of talking about. And one such is the Layer 7 operator, which is net new to those who don't know if you don't know, but Layer 7 Operator is really the solution that sort of helps manage your database less solution now. So a container can be stood up as an ephemeral container, and the Layer 7 Operator helps maintain the policies and the configurations for that container. And really, it's kind of the interaction point directly to your GitHub or some sort of repository that you have within your environments. We're also DevSecOps specialists. So Sanjay and myself worked for a company called Aqua Security that helped manage and sort of secure the overall containers and how they get deployed and how they are managed in the future. So we have that sort of specialty as our background. So when we built this tool, we really built that as sort of a part of our mindset, building it into a pipeline with DevSecOps in mind. Sort of the sort of spaces that we've been able to build the tool into is the AWS EKS, Azure AKS, and OpenShift environments. These are all sort of touch points within the Helm charts that are provided by Broadcom. So this specific walkthrough today is going to highlight the, I believe it's the EKS environment, but we do have options to move into the AKS and OpenShift as well. The different sort of deployments are really just scripted through Circle CI, and this specifically, this Circle CI pipeline, and this specifically today. But of course, all of that can be shifted into whatever sort of pipeline that you have in-house. The sort of the traditional mindset of the deployment patterns are really kind of on the left-hand side of this screen, and really kind of walks through sort of the virtual appliance, the software appliance, or even the hardware. The hardware appliance. So essentially, you have these gateways stood up in your DMZ zone, as you will, and sort of your protecting any sort of API calls to the back end or secure zones. But the future of these sort of deployments are really moving into the cloud native solution for sort of the traditional deployment patterns are really being disrupted in our ecosystem now, and it's transforming how our businesses are run, really from an IT perspective. The future really kind of allows for a much cleaner and predictable sort of build and deploy options, where sort of automation and improved collaboration happens within your ecosystem. Sort of the CICD pipelines are used to sort of automate deployments and monitoring and testing. So a lot of those different feature sets, I'm sure you're well aware of, but a lot of this has been brought into the fold when Layer 7 development team was starting to build into the cloud native solutions. We can automate the infrastructure provisioning and configure to promote consistency, agility, and reproducibility. It's also cost effective, in terms of only use what you need and only pay for what you get, or only pay with as you go. Also, the ability to, as load increases, you do have the ability to increase headlessly your scale, your environments headlessly when the load starts to increase, or in the reverse, if your load starts to diminish for whatever reason, you can start to dial back and scale down your environments. And this is all built into the solution as well. So these are all sort of Helm charts that are provided by Broadcom. They built in the sort of different solutions or different options for you, very easily to edit and sort of configure for your environments. And it is a GitHub repo that they provide for their customers. As part of the deployment of the new sort of cloud native solution, is really what I mentioned earlier is sort of the layer 7 operator. This is actually very crucial in the overall sort of cloud native deployments. And really that's kind of an interaction point directly to your GitHub repo or any sort of repository that you can actually manage the policy configurations and services that are sitting in your APIs. Another really cool thing within this as well is the OpenTelemetry component. It's actually a service within the Kubernetes environment, but it interacts directly with the gateway and allows you to pull the metrics directly into a Grafana or Splunk or any other third-party operation monitoring tool that allows you to harness and see and visualize the metrics of your APIs. So it's a very cool way of sort of deploying the gateway, and obviously there's some things underneath the covers that a lot of folks are questioning, or at least from a sort of deployment and sort of do we have the right folks to maintain this environment, because it's a new tool, new way of doing business, but that's really something that we can help with from an AI perspective. And the two individuals on the call with myself, Sanjay and Muthu, can do a great job of sort of help positioning that and maintaining it for you. So with what I'll do is I'll pass it off to Muthu to walk through the next slides during this presentation.
Thank you. Can you go back to the next slide, please? So there are two presentations, two demos that we'll be doing. The demo first is going to be migrating your on-premise gateway into cloud. And this make use of, we expect the input requirement for this is, we expect you to do a database dump and place that in a database dump and make it available for the pipeline to pick it up. Then the pipeline picks that up and deploys container gateway on the AWS cloud and import the database onto that and does an upgrade and make it available for you. And the entire operation is seamless. It's just that we have to provide all the input parameters to the Circle CI pipeline, then start the pipeline, then pipeline will do the job for you. So this is step number one, so which is migrating an online on-premise gateway to the cloud with a click of a button, provided all the input parameters are passed on to Circle CI. The second demo that we are going to do is L7 operator. So as Derek mentioned, L7 operator is a new operator introduced by Broadcom, and it is based on Kubernetes operator methodology. And what it does is it allows the policy management to be handled, or policy migration to be handled via GitHub, instead of someone manually migrating using GMU or even GraphQL. So anytime a new update happens, all the user is required to do is check in the new policy update into the GitHub. Then the L7 operator will take the responsibility of syncing that policy back to the respective gateway on the Kubernetes instance. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are some of the input components that we need for the Circle CI pipeline to work. So the pipeline is capable of getting the data from any of the appliances that you may have. So you may have a hardware or virtual or any of the appliances. As I mentioned, all it needs is the database dump, the SSC database dump. As long as it is made and make it available to the Circle CI, then we are good to go. What are additional components that are needed from the outside? The input source is we need a Kubernetes cluster, and Circle CI is what we are using, but it is highly portable. If the customer has a GitHub Actions, we can port that to GitHub Actions pretty easily, not a big issue at all. MySQL dump, which I already explained, and the next thing is a GitHub repository. So that's all the components that is needed to make this happen. Go to the next slide, please. Okay. So for the first demo, what we are using is the dump that we get from the customer. We will be using the dump to import onto AWS RDS MySQL database. So instead of creating a container database, which is not recommended by Broadcom, so we'll be using that dump to import onto AWS RDS database. The cloud container instance will reference the MySQL from AWS RDS database only, and it will not have its own container database for the demo, and which is exactly what is recommended by Broadcom as well. And sorry, I forgot to mention, RDS is also a must in addition to Kubernetes cluster from the external perspective. Coming back to migration, what is this? Ephemeral gateway. I think I've addressed all the things about this. So from the Broadcom perspective, we'll be using Broadcom's Helm chart, and the Helm chart provides us with L7 operator module and also certification manager module. So once we install it, the L7 operator gets installed, and using which it can help to synchronize the policy updates from the GitHub repository to the respective gateways. So in fact, it can help manage many gateways at once. For instance, you may have dev, QA, stage, and prod instance of the gateway. This one L7 operator manages, it knows which GitHub repository to be picked up and which gateway to be synchronized. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Yeah, here is a high-level infrastructure architecture drawing of what the on-premise to cloud migration looks like. On the left-hand side that you see, we require the SSD dump. It could be from your local on-premise SSD dump, and that gets imported to AWS S3, which is a storage. And next one is we need input as a AWS EKS, and also we need input as the RDS database credentials. So all these things will be fed into the pipeline, and the pipeline will start from there, and it instantiates layer 7. It deploys layer 7 on the Kubernetes instance, and also it imports the data into AWS RDS database, and finally it does the upgrade and make it available. Next slide, please. Okay, so in this scenario, what we are doing is, in the previous slide, the data would have been upgraded and made it available on the cloud native layer 7 instance. Okay, and in this scenario, we pick up the cloud native database instance. We run a Graphman on it, export all the policies from the already migrated cloud native instance, and the exported policy will be imported back into a GitHub repository. Okay, so once this is done, then the layer 7 operator gets deployed and initializes the respective GitHub repository, and finally deploys the layer 7 ephemeral gateway instance. So by doing this, the layer 7 operator knows that there is a GitHub repository exists, and it already has the policies from the migrated gateway. and it is going to synchronize the migrated policies which are in GitHub back into the newly built gateway accordingly. So by this, we will be able to, when we log into the policy manager, we will be able to see. We will be able to see the upgraded services available in the container gateway that was managed by L7 operator. So as part of the demo, we will also demonstrate adding few more services and also clusterable properties by checking into the GitHub repository. And as soon as we check into the GitHub repository and do a push into the GitHub, we can see that the policy gets pushed back to the respective container gateway if we do a refresh on the policy manager. Over to Sanjay for the demo.
Thank you, Muthu. I'm going to do two demos for you. The first demo would be, like Muthu mentioned, it'll migrate your 10x SSG data into 11x gateway on the Kubernetes. So let me start. Give me 1 second. Let me just share my screen with you guys.
Just to clarify that, sorry, Sanjay, it's 10.1 gateway data, and then we're going into 11.1 gateway.
Correct.
Okay. I'm hoping you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And you guys see the Circle CI, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to build the first pipeline. This pipeline, as you can see, is built on Circle CI. There's a lot of configuration. We can go in details later on, but very quick, I'll just run this pipeline. Started from here, and this pipeline will go ahead and import all the data and start deploying the Layer 7 gateway onto EKS. As you can see, the build has kicked. As the build continues, I can walk you through some steps if you want. It spins up an Ubuntu environment, installs all the necessary tools, prepares environment variables and things like that. For example, Node.js is being installed. The other things being, kubectl, AWS CLI. Whatever tools are required for the deployment gets installed, and then the health chart is run after that. And we also, you see here, installing a MySQL client. MySQL client is needed for importing the 10x data into 11x gateway.
Yeah, me too, Kemi. I'm not hearing any audio as well.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we're not able to hear you anymore, Sanjay. I'm not sure what happened.
Sanjay, are you talking?
Yeah, I am talking. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Now we
hear you
can.
now.
For a
Yes.
while we couldn't. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So so far the pods are up and running. It is installing the Graphman, and so it can export the policies and make it available in the pipeline itself, that it is able to connect to the newly built gateway and the policies.
Maybe we should discuss what the Graphman client and Graphman does for the folks on the call.
Yeah. So Graphman is a new tool provided by the Broadcom, and that is a to-go tool for migrating any Kong objects from now on into the future, and they may deprecate GMU in the upcoming, I don't know, in future. So GraphQL provides a lot more flexibility when compared to GMU. You can query like GraphQL, right? So in the GraphQL, we can query whatever we want and get specific to that specific object. The same thing we can do using Graphman as well. And they are providing options to use Graphman as a infrastructure as a code. So which means we'll be able to write a policy and not necessarily using the XML, typical XML, right? So when you in a policy code, if you copy some assertion and paste it into a notepad, you're going to get an XML. So instead, you'll be able to write a policy using either a JSON or a YAML format, human readable format, where you just need to reference the respective assertion name and provide some the assertion properties. And then calling a Graphman API is going to create a policy for you. So the GraphQL is super fast when compared to GMU. I've been exploring a lot, and that is the direction from Broadcom that they will be going towards GraphQL from GMU. And we have utilized Graphman's capability here. And another important thing to understand is the L7 operator works only on Graphman and not on GMU. So it is a must to have the Graphman service enabled on the gateway. And we have taken care of all that using the pipeline itself. As soon as it builds the gateway, it enables the Graphman. And what he's showing, right, the last step of this migration, what it is showing is it has installed or deployed the Kubernetes gateway with the migrated policy, and Graphman is able to log into that and exported all the policies. So in our demo, we have created only one policy, which is testing 10x, and that is what it is showing. It is able to log on to the new instance and able to export that policy out and show it for you.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now properly, I guess?
Yes, yes.
Okay, very good. So yeah, this is, as you can see, the policy has been, so this is a proof that, everything that came from 10x got migrated to 11x, and you can see the policies. If we had a policy manager, if I was able to log in with policy manager, that would have seen all the policies. But since it's a demo, we're trying to do everything through command line and making sure we minimize our policy manager use. So anyways, with this, the entire 10x has been migrated. Everything has been deployed to Kubernetes cluster. You can see here. Okay. As you can see, the gateway and things like that have been installed and they are running. And when we use the Graphman, we basically call the gateway to export everything. So everything seems to be migrated very good. Now what we'll do is we'll be running the second demo where a Graphman call will be made again to this particular gateway here. And using this gateway, the data from this gateway will be migrated into an ephemeral gateway. So let's run that new pipeline.
Sanjay, you want to show the environmental variable here before we kick off? So
sure.
That way we can walk them through what are the inputs that we are accepting as part of the Circle CI for this specific pipeline.
Okay. Yes. It's a huge list, but yeah, Muthu, if you wanted to talk about it.
Sure. As mentioned in the previous slide deck, that we have to provide certain inputs to the pipeline. So one is AWS access and for AWS cluster access. So AWS access is must. The second one is cluster access. The third one is S3 bucket. S3 bucket is where we store the customer's MySQL dump. Okay. And the fourth one is external DB host. So external DB host is the AWS RDS MySQL instance host. So where it can write the data to. And scroll down, please. And rest everything is all the properties that need to be set or that need to have a different value other than the default Helm file. So one is where the license file can be located, whether RESTman need to be enabled or not, whether the GraphMan need to be enabled or not, and whatever the references to MySQL is all relate back to AWS RDS instance only. This has the username, password, and what is a credential that we can use to log into AWS MySQL instance. And yeah, that's about it. So these are the input parameters that we provide to the Circle CI pipeline. And once it is done and we start the pipeline, then the pipeline does the job for us. Okay, over to Sanjay.
Awesome, thanks, Muthu. So now let's run the second pipeline.
Sanjay, you want to show the GitHub repository?
Yeah, for sure.
So that way we know that the GitHub repository is all good.
Right.
And
yeah.
The pipeline will import the data into the GitHub repository.
Right. So this is a GitHub repository which is connected to the layer 7 operator. The pipeline, what it does, it will go to the previous gateway that we just installed right now in the first demo. Take a dump, basically take a GraphMan dump from that demo and insert it, create all the necessary files in this GitHub repo. As these files gets created here, the operator listens to this particular repo and it automatically or real time updates all the policies. So with that being said, let me kick off the second operator pipeline.
If any questions, if you have any questions, please post your questions in the chat. We'll be able to address in the last after the demo.
All right, the pipeline built and it's spun up a new ephemeral gateway, and we can see it here.
As you can see, this is a much faster approach to deploying and managing your gateways. it's definitely a different way than spinning up a virtual appliance in an ESX cluster and such. I think this is the powerful nature of the cloud native deployments.
So you can see here the cluster has been ephemeral gateway came up, and also showed you guys earlier, right? This is the GitHub repo. That pipeline kind of updated, created some of the policies from the 10x. So here, if I refresh this, you will see new folders being built here or created here. You can see here, tree and cluster-wide properties came in. That was a part of the build. So there were policies that got imported, texting 10x, and there was Graphman enabled. We also have a few cluster-wide properties that came in via these files. I'll show it to you in a bit. You can see this has been imported. So now what I'll do is open a policy manager and connect to the ephemeral gateway to show that everything has been imported from 10x into 11x and 11x into ephemeral. Okay. Okay, now you can see here all those policies that we were talking about. 10x has been imported. There are also some cluster-wide properties that came in here from the previous install. These are the cluster-wide properties that came in from the previous install. So now next what I'm going to do is basically add some cluster-wide properties and some few policies or APIs, to the GitHub repo. And once I add it, you'll be able to see those repos and the cluster-wide properties and the policy of the APIs being updated here automatically. So, okay, here. So these two were existing from before. We'll add more to it. So I'm going to copy. I have some demo cluster-wide properties. We're going to copy it here. We have more cluster-wide properties now. We can see. I'm going to do the same thing for the policies. Now you can see here there are more services added, but I have not yet committed the code or pushed the code, so it will not show up in the gateway yet. So I'm going to go ahead and commit. Now, as I hit push, these should be updated here in this policy manager. Okay. I refreshed, and you can see here all the policies came in. And you'll also see some new cluster-wide properties added here. Initially, we just had this, and now these 4 new cluster-wide properties came in here. And for example, yeah, go ahead, Muthu.
Sanjay, once you're done, you can show the GitHub repository as well, showing that the new policy is there as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do this. And maybe we should also, if you want, I can, for example, I'm going to show this, but I think it's a good idea to also, for example, I could change this cluster-wide properties, the name, and you will see that it gets reflected here after that. So let me show you the GitHub repo. I'm not sure if you have enough time, but I'll try to do it. Okay, so this is the GitHub repo. Let me refresh again. The cluster-wide properties were here. Okay, as you can see, it got updated here just 2 minutes ago. So these are the policies that got updated 2 minutes ago. Next, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and change one of the cluster-wide properties so that we can see the change in action then like real time. So this is Muthu.json. I'm going to change the name to Sanjay here. Okay, this has been pushed. Let's go to the policy manager. Do a quick refresh. And now you should see those changes in the cluster-wide property. As you can see, the employee name changed from Muthu to Sanjay. So as you can see, any changes made to the GitHub repo kind of almost in real time gets updated to your policy manager. With this approach, you also do not have, with the ephemeral gateway, there's no headache or extra work of managing MySQL and other things. Everything is maintained in the GitHub repo. So pretty great solution here. So I think I'm done with my demo, Muthu. I'm open to any questions if you guys have, or
just hold on one sec there, Sanjay.
Sure.
Great job, by the way. Thank you so much for delivering that. You know, just to do a little bit of a summarize, you know, at the end of the day, what this Layer 7 operator brings you is the ability to manage everything within your GitHub repo as opposed to logging into the policy manager and managing those specific values. You know, essentially, obviously, you still have the ability to manage it within the policy manager, but there is that approach where you can make sure you can have those abilities to manage it through a GitHub repo headlessly, and you don't have to be logging into the policy manager. So lots of new development that was been done over the last year and a half to 2 years, and kudos to the Broadcom team for delivering that to the marketplace. So, but yeah, that thank you, Sanjay and Muthu, for delivering such a great presentation and very thorough. Just wanted to throw out, like Sanjay mentioned, just to kind of to sort of finalize this presentation today. You know, before questions and answers, and hopefully we can answer those questions that are appearing, if there is any. But just kind of want to finalize that this is something that you know, we've been working very hard on to sort of deliver some specific needs for our customers. And this has been Sanjay and Muthu's just been doing great work here. So with that, I'll close it off, but please ask any questions away and we'll try to answer them as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Derek. I did hear that the chat box might not be working for some people for some reason, so I apologize for that. But hopefully the Q&A box is working for attendees. And if not, you can also click the raise hand icon so we can unmute you so you can ask your questions as well. But yeah, just please type in any questions you may have. We can wait a few minutes here to see if any pop up.
The solution has been tested on Azure, AWS, GCP, and also on what is this, OpenShift. So the solution works on all the platforms. Depending on what platform, which cloud platform the customer would like, we can use it accordingly.
Awesome, thank you. Someone, not a question, but they said great work, all very informative. So thank you, Derek and team, for that. See if any other questions pop through.
Yeah, any questions, concerns? I'd be more than happy to see, answer them.
Don't see any so far. Maybe we'll just wait just another minute to give people time. And also, if you do have, you think of a question later, you can always reach out to Derek or Natalie or ANI account director as well, and we'll be happy to answer questions that way too.
And if the customer need help with Kubernetes hands-on, we can definitely do that. So we can we can take a separate task for that to help them bring up to speed on Kubernetes. Then we can help with the migration. So that is certainly possible from our end.
Yeah, thank you for that, Muthu. That's a great call out. I just we do have the ability to help run sort of these demos as well as sort of training sessions for any sort of customer or partner. So just let us know. We will help out as much as possible.
Yeah. So let's say the customer wants to use their data to show this demo, we can certainly do that for them in their cloud atmosphere as well. So provided we get all the necessary access, we should be able to demo it for them using their data.
Okay, awesome. Well, I don't think we have any questions right now, so I guess that will conclude the demo. Thank you everyone for joining. If you do think of any questions, definitely reach out to us, and we'd be happy to help. Derek, any final words from your team? Yeah. Oh, wait,
I do see one question.
Yes, okay, yes. Go ahead.
The solution is currently not available on government cloud. So no, the solution has been, as I mentioned, the solution has been tested on all the 4 top cloud providers, which is AWS, GCP, Azure, and OpenShift, not on the government cloud providers yet. But we would be more than happy to work with the government to make this happen. As I mentioned, it's just the properties or just the input pointers that we need to change on the cloud perspective. And again, if there is anything specific with respect to government cloud, those are the things that need to be taken care. But otherwise, as long as we provide the necessary input, the pipeline should work without any issues.
Yeah, and just to add to Muthu, yes, this solution can run on an air-gapped environment. Right now, we are pulling directly all the images and everything from Broadcom's repository. But if we had to go to an air-gapped environment, we can have these private repositories within the air-gapped environment, and someone can be responsible for pulling the image from Broadcom's repo and pushing it to your private repo, and then the build can kick off with your private repo. So it's possible to definitely install a government cloud that typically air-gapped and very secure. So it's definitely possible to run the solution or install a Layer7 gateway on an air-gapped environment.
Thank you, Sanjay.
All right, I think that's it for questions then. Yeah, thank you guys for the demo, and thank you everyone for joining. Have a great rest of the day. Let us know if we can help you. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Cami. Thank you, everybody.